Hello, good morning, students. Today we are going to study Daffodils by William Wordsworth. But before we start this poem, I would like to tell you something about the poet William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth is a romantic poet. When we say romantic poet, romantic here does not mean romancing with words or flirting with words or romancing a girl or romancing someone. Romanticism means trying to convey your message, trying to impart your knowledge to your viewers, to your audience. No study in English is complete without reading of William Wordsworth, who is perhaps the greatest of romantic poets. It was he who rallied for the use of everyday language, common people, and things in poetry. Wordsworth was a great lover of nature, and this poem was inspired by a real life experience. Once, when on a walk with his sister Dorothy, he came upon a sight of a belt of daffodils beside a lake with the winds blowing over the flowers. The sight of this vast expanse of yellow flowers inspired Wordsworth to write this remarkable poem. He goes on to tell the reader that long after he had had this experience, the mere memory of the sight would lift his spirit when he felt dejected or depressed. This well known poem is a eulogy to the restorative powers of nature. William Wordsworth was given the title of Poet Laureate in 1843. Some of his major works are Lyrical Ballads, 1798, Poems in two volumes, 1807, and The Excursion, 1814. Now, something about the flower daffodil. What type of flower a daffodil is? Daffodils are very delicate flowers. Daffodils, they bloom before the break of the morning sun. Before the morning sun comes over the horizon, the flowers are in bloom. And by the time the morning sun reaches the center of the sky, reaches the highest position of the sky, the daffodils already wilt away. They wither away. They begin to droop. They begin to droop and they begin to fall. That is, the life of a daffodil flower is very short. But we see what lasting impression these delicate, sensitive daffodils have over the mind of the poet. What restorative powers these flowers have. Wordsworth's work show vividly his love of nature. It underlines the idea that beautiful objects of nature like daffodils, flowers that bloom earliest in spring in England, fill our minds with pleasure. Even the memory of such objects delight us. The poet tells us how he once saw a large number of golden colored, beautiful daffodils growing beside a lake. In their company, he felt happy and was lost in their beauty. He continued to gaze at the beautiful sight. Afterwards, Whenever he was lonely or whenever he was sad, the memory of these beautiful flowers filled him with great happiness. His heart began to dance with the dancing daffodils. The poem Daffodils brings home the idea that nature is a source of eternal joy. Nature is full of beauty that captivates us all the time. The beautiful object of nature, flowers, plants, mountains, lakes, stars, the sun, the moon, so on and so forth, fill our minds with pleasure. Whenever we get a break, whenever we have some holidays, we want to rush out from this hubbub of the city. We want to go somewhere far from the city life, somewhere where there are beaches, somewhere where there are waterfalls, somewhere where there are forests, somewhere where there are hills and mountains. Why? Because of the restorative power of nature. A short break and we turn towards nature to restore back the energy to us. In the poem Daffodils, it is the beautiful scene of golden daffodils that mesmerized the poet. The daffodils growing near the lake appeared to be tossing their heads in a gentle breeze that was blowing, as if they were dancing, and the poet realized a poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. He continued to gaze at the beautiful sight, the real worth of which he realized only when he was removed far from it. He comes to realize that nature has the ability to soothe and delight us in our melancholy mood. The beautiful scene of the daffodils often flashes across the poet's mind, and he feels as if his heart were dancing in joy with the dancing daffodils. This poem shows how nature has the power to heal our stressed soul. If we care to turn to nature, we are amazed to find wonderful sights such as the one described in the poem Daffodils. The concluding stanza makes it clear that a beautiful sight in nature is capable of removing any stress and gloom from our minds. The poet says that whenever he is in a sad or idle mood, the beautiful scene of the daffodils fills his mind with pleasure. This is what we feel in the lap of nature. By just looking at the starry sky, the rising of the setting sun, a garden, birds, and trees, we forget all our weals and woes. In his sonnet, "The world is too much with us," Wordsworth rightly says, "The world is too much with us, late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon." The poem Daffodils depicts the sight that the poet actually enjoyed in the company of his sister Dorothy while they were in the woods beyond the Go Barrow Park. In the beginning, the poet describes himself as a cloud that floats over the hills, underlining the fact of his seclusion. Though he was not lonely in reality, all of a sudden his eyes fell upon a large belt of daffodils by the side of the lake. They were sheltered under growing trees. A gentle breeze made these golden colored flowers wave and dance. The poet uses the word host for the daffodils as if they were welcoming the poet being their guest. The poet feels that the daffodils were as numerous as the stars that shine and twinkle in the Milky Way. They were spread in a long line of the bank of the lake. The poet saw a large number of them moving their heads as if they were dancing and rejoicing. The poet observes that the waves on the surface of the lake seemed to be dancing, but the dance of the daffodils surpassed the dance in liveliness. The poet feels that no poet can help feeling delighted in the presence of such delightful companions. He continued to gaze at the beautiful scene. He was so lost in its beauty that he could hardly realize its worth then. He realized its worth only when he was away from the sight, when he was not practically in front of the daffodils, when he was at home, when he was sitting idle, when he was lying idly on his sofa, on his couch. At that time, he realized the real value of these delicate and beautiful flowers, the restorative powers of these delicate flowers, daffodils. The concluding stanza of the poem is quite important. It is in fact often quoted by critics to prove Wordsworth's point that poetry takes its origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. It is important to keep in mind that Daffodils, like many other poems, records a past experience. That is why the poet says, "For often when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude." The memory of the scene of golden daffodils fills the poet's mind with joy. His heart begins to dance with the daffodils. He forgets his sadness or loneliness. It is, of course, in solitude that human mind captures the things already seen. The poet wants to emphasize that nature is a source of eternal joy to man. Now, let me explain to you the poem para by para, stanza by stanza. Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Here in this stanza, the poet recalls how once he wandered as freely as a cloud over valleys and hills. What does the poet imply here? What does the cloud imply to you? The cloud has no destination in mind. The cloud has no fixed goals in his mind that today I am going to cross the Arabian Sea, then I will go to the Konkan coast, and then I will go to Maharashtra, and then I will go to Uttar Pradesh. No. The cloud is just driven by the wind. The cloud leaves itself free, sets itself free, and allows itself to float wherever the wind takes it. So also the poet William Wordsworth let himself free with nature, allowed nature to take him where nature wants him to be. So he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. What figure of speech are we seeing here? I wandered lonely as a cloud. When as and like are used in comparison, the figure of speech is a simile. So the poet says, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. That the clouds, no barrier can control the clouds. The clouds can float over the mountains. The cloud can go across the valleys, the deep valleys. So also the poet, he moves across the mountains and the valleys. When all at once I saw a crowd. Crowd. It was a huge belt. When all of a sudden he came to the bay of that particular lake, what met his eye was a huge crowd, a huge belt of daffodils. Therefore, he describes the daffodils as a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Who is a host? Who is a guest? The person who visits our house is a guest, and we are the hosts. So, here the poet is personifying the daffodils. He's giving the human qualities to the daffodils as host, as if they are welcoming the poet into their homes. So, what he refers to the daffodils as a host of golden daffodils, as if they were waiting in welcome for the poet. A host of golden daffodils beside the lake, beneath the trees. Where all were the daffodils? The daffodils were stretched everywhere. Every inch of the bay was covered with the golden daffodils. It was beside the lake, it was beneath the trees. And what were the daffodils doing? They were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Again, the human quality of dance is given to the flowers, daffodils. So the poet recalls how once he wandered as freely as a cloud over valleys and hills. Suddenly he saw a large number of golden daffodils. The daffodils had grown under the tree near the lake. A cool breeze was blowing. So the beautiful flowers tossed their heads in the breeze as if in a dance. The beautiful scene thus captivated the poet. Now the second stanza continues as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in a sprightly dance. The poet then recalls that the daffodils he saw were as numerous as shining stars in the Milky Way in the sky. Now this is actually a hyperbole. The figure of speech used here is a hyperbole because there's a sort of an exaggeration here. He says continuous as the stars that shine. Continuous. Now the stars in the Milky Way are innumerable. Perhaps they are many times more than what the poet William Wordsworth could see. But he's comparing the sight of the daffodils to the sight to the Milky Way, the stars in the Milky Way. We can also get another figure of speech here, that is alliteration. The sound of S, the sound of sir is being repeated here. Continuous as the stars that shine. The sound of the word sir, stars, shine. The word S is being repeated here. So we can say it's an alliteration. Again, we can also say that it's a simile because again the word is being used to describe the sight of the daffodils to that of the galaxy Milky Way. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. The simile underlines the large number. The simile underlies the large number and the beauty of the flowers. The daffodils growing beside the lake seemed to form an endless line. They tossed their heads to and fro in the breeze as if they were engaged in a lively dance. The daffodils are personified as human beings, so we can see personification being used here, dancing and tossing their heads. Earlier they have been described as a crowd and as a host. So this personification continues throughout to underline an inherent unity between man and nature, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in never ending line. They stretched in never ending line. Again, a hyperbole, a line, as you have studied in geometry, a line is an infinity. So it's describing the this belt of daffodils as a stretch of never ending line. So again it's a hyperbole along the margin of a bay. Where were the flowers? It was bordering the bay, along the margin of the bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance. Inversion. 10,000 saw I at a glance. The figure of speech here is an inversion. Grammatical rules have been broken to give rhythm to the poem. Dance and glance, the rhyming to make it rhyme. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in a sprightly dance. Right? Tossing their heads. Again, a quality of personification has been given to the daffodils. The third stanza. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. The waves beside them, that means apart from the flowers dancing, it appeared as if the waves of the bay, of the lake, even the water was dancing. So both the daffodils and the waves are personified. The wave beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. What type of dance was it? It was a joyful dance. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. A poet could not but be happy in a jocund, a jovial company. When we are with happy people, our mood aligns with the mood of our friends. We are happy in their happiness, we are sad in their sadness. In the same way, the poet, he saw the happy company of the flowers, he saw the happy company of the waves. He was in amidst the happiness of nature, and he himself became one with the mood of happiness. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. I gazed and gazed. He was mesmerized, he was captivated, he was hypnotized by the beautiful flowers. The poet recalls how the shining waves in the lake seemed to be dancing in the breeze, but their dance was surpassed by the dance of the daffodils. The daffodils seemed to be dancing with much more liveliness and vigor. The poet is of the opinion that no sensitive person can help feeling delighted in the company of such joyful companions. He recalls how he continued to gaze at the beautiful scene. He could not think what wealth of joy it had brought to him. Now, the fourth stanza, the concluding and the last stanza of the poem. For often, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. This stanza marks a break in time. There is a clear shift from the past to the present. For often when on my couch I lie. Now he is talking about the present mood, in vacant or in pensive mood. So this stanza marks a break in time. There's a clear shift from the past to the present. The poet says that whenever he lies on his couch, in free or in sad mood, the beautiful scene of daffodils seen by him flashes across his mind. This happens only in solitude. The memory of the beautiful scene fills the poet's mind with joy. His heart begins to dance with the dancing daffodils. This is the crux of the poem. The poet conveys the idea that nature has the power to make us come out of our melancholy or depressed mood and be happy. No wonder whenever we get a chance, we would like to be open, out in the open field where there is stretches and stretches of grassland, or we would like to be somewhere in the forest doing the jungle safari, or on the beaches playing by the waves, or in some beautiful garden, or in an orchard, or somewhere on a hill station. We like to go to these places because of the restorative power of nature. Here, the last stanza tells us that the poet recalls the memory of this beautiful scene, this beautiful sight of the daffodils whenever he is in a vacant mood, whenever he is in a pensive mood, whenever he is sad, whenever he is lonely, whenever he is alone. This is the power of nature. Let's see what style the poem is written in. What is the form? What are the literary devices used by the poet in this poem? The poem Daffodils is a masterpiece by William Wordsworth. The poem is a lyric. It gives expression to a single emotion or feeling of joy in nature. Like a true lyric, it is not complex. It appeals more to the heart than to the intellect. Then it is quite short and musical. The various literary devices used by the poet in the poem is personification, simile, structure, alliteration, inversion, and metaphor. Personification, in order to convey an inherent unity between man and nature, the poet William Wordsworth compares himself to a cloud, an object of nature, while he humanizes the daffodils by using the words a crowd and a host for them. See how he changes, it's like role playing. He becomes a part of nature like a lonely cloud, and the daffodils become like human. He transforms the daffodils, he transforms the waves of the bay, of the lake, into humans. Then he has used simile. The poet compares his idle wandering to that of a cloud over hills and valleys. Whenever the word as and like are used in comparing two different things, the figure of speech is a simile. Then he compares the beauty of the daffodils with that of the twinkling stars in the sky. He also compares the dance of the daffodils with that of the waves in the lake to pinpoint the superiority of the daffodils in their liveliness. The structure of the poem is divided into 4 stanzas, each stanza having 6 lines with the rhyming scheme of A B C C in iambic tetrameter. The rhyming scheme is regular throughout the poem. In each stanza, the first line rhymes with the third, and the second line rhymes with the fourth, and the fifth line rhymes with the sixth. For example, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. The first line, the last word cloud, rhymes with the third line, last word crowd. The second line, The last word hills rhymes with the fifth line, rhymes with the fourth line, daffodils. And the fifth and the sixth line, they rhyme with each other, trees and breeze. That is why the rhyming scheme is A, B, A, B, C, C. A, cloud, B, hills, C, sorry, A, crowd, cloud and crowd are rhyming, so they become A. Hills and daffodils are rhyming, so they become B, and trees and breeze are rhyming together, that is C. So A, B, the first line A, the second line B, the third line A, the fourth line B, the fifth line C, and the sixth line also C. That is how the rhyming scheme of the poem. Then the poet has also used alliteration. Alliteration is a figure of speech where sound is repeated. I gazed and gazed. The sound of G. In fact, this is a repetition as well. Whenever the sound are repeated, we take it as an alliteration. An inversion is when we break the regular rules of grammar. The sentence structure is broken to create a special poetic effect, to create a rhyming scheme. For often when on my couch I lie. For often. So he said, when on my couch I lie. For often when I lie on my couch. That should be the order or the structure of the sentence. But here the poet is using for often when on my couch I lie. Then 10,000 saw I at a glance. I have already explained this to you. And this is also in hyperbole. 10,000 saw I at a glance. In a glance, he not only has seen the flower, 10,000 flowers, but he's also counted it. Hyperbole, we can say na hyperbole, HYPERBOLE. Hyperbole, hyperbole मतलब बढ़ चढ़कर बोले. बढ़ चढ़कर बोले hyperbole. Spelling is hyper, HYPERBOLE, but we pronounce it as hyperbole. Then the metaphor. Metaphor is a direct comparison. We don't use the word as or like when we use the figure of speech metaphor. That inward I refers metamorphically to memory, to our memory, to what we have seen, what we recollect. So here he's comparing the memory to an inward eye, to an eye. That is how it's a metaphor. So I hope I am able to convey the message that the poet is trying to give to his readers. This poem Daffodils, the more you read the poem Daffodils, the more you fall in love with this poem. It's such a beautiful, it's such a masterpiece of a poem. So in this time when we are restricted in our four walls of our room, when we are not allowed to go out in this pandemic, I urge you all to listen to this poem time and again. If you have this poem, read it out loud. The louder you read the poem to yourself, the more you tend to enjoy the poetry. Poems are meant to be read aloud, not to be read inwardly. They are meant to be read aloud and to rejoice with the sound effect that the poem creates. It draws you closer to the poet, to the feelings of the poet. So this is Tyrone Mendonça signing off for today. I hope you enjoyed yourself listening to the poem as much as I did reading it out and explaining it out to you all. Have a nice day. God bless you. Stay safe. May your family be safe from this pandemic, the deadly virus of corona. May the Lord take away this sickness and throw it in the deepest pit of hell. God bless you, children. Take care of yourself and your family members.